Welcome to Dream Chaser Radio.
Welcome back to the Dream Chaser Show. I am your host, Will Lane. Hope everyone had a phenomenal Labor Day weekend. Just getting back in town from a little trip out to Seattle. Was out there for a little bit. And I tell you, a beautiful city, man. Beautiful city. I went out there, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I always hear all this, about Seattle being this dreary, damp, cloudy place. But I tell you what, it didn't rain the whole time I was out there. And it was just, the scenery was just incredible. You got the mountain landscape, then you got the ocean, and the seafood. Forget about it. Forget about it. I had a little bit of everything out there. I had coconut battered prawns, salmon, seared halibut, you name it. So if you've never been, get out to Seattle. Only during the summertime. I can't vouch for what you're going to find out there in October or February, but I can tell you if you go in August, it's a nice place to visit. This week's guest, got my man Glenn Carver. Glenn is a business coach, speaker, and now author of the new book, Stand in the Heat. And I wanted to bring Glenn on the show because the book is all about staying cool under pressure. And one thing is, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to be a dream chaser, if you're going to be in this game, you better be able to stay cool under pressure. And that's what this book, Stand in the Heat, is all about. And in the book, he interviews some pretty heavy hitters. He's got George McCarroll in here, the CEO of Longhorns. He's got Herman Cain. He's got Bob Doyle, the guy from the movie The Secret, as well as many others. So, Glenn, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. How's everything going?
Hey, doing fantastic, Will. I'm honored to be on the show, and I appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. I know we've been trying to get our schedules lined up for a little bit, so it's finally good to get you on. First off, I just want to say congratulations with the recent success of the book, and I saw also that you had a huge endorsement from Brian Tracy, so great job there. And I want to get into the book, but first off, I just want to start out by giving the audience just an idea of who Glenn Carver is and what you're all about.
Sure, absolutely. Well, today I'm 45 years old, but was born in Atlanta, Georgia. Played a lot of golf as a kid, and at one point in my life aspired to be a golf pro, but figured out that I didn't have the patience for that game or the temperament, although I really enjoyed the game. My father was a real estate developer back in the early 80s to late 80s, about the time that I graduated high school and went off to college, went to University of Georgia from 1985 to 1989. Really have had the entrepreneur DNA. I've had that spirit ever since I was a kid. And I remember from 15 years old on, Will, I never wanted to work a day in my life for somebody else. So I've really been in sales and marketing my entire adult life. Love it. Love what sales is about. Love the process of selling. As my dad's he's told me since I was knee high, son, nothing happens until the cash register rings. And believe me, as you know, Will, if you're in sales, you are an entrepreneur. You have to make things happen every day. You got to solve problems, monetize people's problems. And, going back to when I was 10 years old, the first time I ever sold anything, I went door to door selling raffle tickets to raise money for my little league, Pop Warner football league. And the prize was, the brass ring was this beautiful football jacket that I absolutely positively had to have. And so with that dream, that big dream at 10 years old, I struck out on my own and went door to door, learned the process of door-to-door sales, the rejection, the having to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, maintain your attitude. And I really think it was at 10 years old that I realized I like this. I like this process of selling and what I would consider entrepreneurship. So I guess that's some backfill on who I am and what I am at my core, and that's a sales guy and an entrepreneur.
Now it's interesting. You said you're a salesperson at your core, and I'm kind of the same way. I've been involved in sales in my whole career. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. But the funny thing is that even though it's the highest paid profession, it's the oldest profession, most people avoid it, even though you do it every day, whether you're conscious of it and you're getting paid for it or not. I'm curious to know, did you start out liking sales?
Well, I think what I liked, I love people. I'm literally fascinated by people. I love meeting new people. I love, I'm fascinated why people think and do what they do. So I think it's the psychology of selling that always intrigued me. So I don't know that I love sales from day one. I think I found it somewhat natural because I love people. I'm intrigued by people. I was willing to learn. Always been fascinated by business. And I think if I've done anything right in my life, Will, I've always been willing to get out of my comfort zone and grow. And sales will definitely do that. And I think the reason most people don't enjoy sales or see themselves in sales or understand that we're really all in sales at some level is that most people don't like rejection. They take it personally. A lot of people don't have the self-concept or the self-image to handle selling, and it requires some growth. So I've just always embraced it and been willing to grow and learn. And like you, I have an immense library. I'm an avid reader. And some of my mentors have always said, if you want to become better at sales, just go to the bookstore and pick up a great book on personal development.
And you're right. The whole key is personal development and self-improvement. But it's a legitimate fear. I mean, there's a lot of people who really, if they get a couple no's, it's going to ruin their day. How would you recommend that someone deals with that? What kind of tips would you give to somebody who has a real fear of rejection?
Well, I would. That's a great question. I appreciate you asking that. I would suggest, first and foremost, have a really big why. What is your why in life? What is your purpose? If you're selling something just for the money, you're probably not going to be successful. Jumping ahead a little bit, one of the great entrepreneurs I interviewed in my book, Stand in the Heat, is George McCarrow, who's the founder of Longhorn Steakhouse, and he's Ted Turner's partner in Ted's Montana Grill. Ironically, he said although he's made millions and millions of dollars, he was never in it for the money. If you're in sales just for the money, you're probably going to fall shy of your potential. You need to be passionate. You've got to have a passion for what you market, because ultimately, people buy you. They buy you. Your product or service, I think, is an afterthought. But you've got to have a big why. If your why is big enough, the how will fall into place. And, in sales, we get beat up. Sales can be mean, tough, and nasty on a day-to-day basis. You've got to be focused on your why, on your purpose, where you're going. Have a great vision board. Have that in front of you. Have great goals and affirmations written. Stay very connected to your purpose, and then the rejection will be a lot less painful. But I encourage people to reframe quote-unquote failure as just outcome or results. Really, no events in life have any meaning outside of what we attach to it. So, at the end of the day, don't take rejection personally. I've made thousands of cold calls in my life, and nobody's ever come through the phone and beat me up.
That's a good point. It's kind of hard to get beat up doing sales. But switching gears a little bit and reading through the book, one of the things I was impressed by is the admiration that you have for your father. And I wanted to know if you could just speak a little bit on your father and the impact that he's had on you and your life.
He is the eternal optimist. My dad's 72 now. He's in perfect health, so I hope that he'll be around for a very long time, because I have a beautiful 2.5-year-old son. But he's been a massive influence in my life. Not perfect, nobody is. But just seeing his optimism and his unwillingness to ever quit. I mean, he's just got a pit bull, bulldog mentality about when he decides that he's going to do something, he absolutely does it. And, he's had not one but two real estate businesses absolutely devastated due to circumstances beyond his control. One was a real estate development business in the 80s. And then recently, because of the mortgage subprime debacle, he had a great appraisal business, a residential and commercial appraisal business that was just devastated because of the economy. And here at 69, 70 years old, a few years ago, he decided to reinvent himself and turn his passion into an income stream. He went to culinary school, and he's working on a website to teach people how to transition into kitchens, commercial kitchens, and he's writing a book right beside me. And so he's been a massive influence on me, very positive, has always built me up. And I think that's I think that's one of the problems with our country, Will. There's not enough leadership in the household. I think there aren't enough fathers who are great, strong role models for their kids, because very few people will have influence over us in our lifetime like our fathers can. And I'm doing my best to pass that on to my son and be a great role model and instill great values and principles in him. And my boy's 2.5 years old, and he stands up on the counter and does affirmations with me every morning and pumps his fist and says, yes. And, so I'm passing that on. I don't think there's anything, we could talk about this all day. It is critical that we as men be good role models, first and foremost, for our kids.
I agree, man. I agree wholeheartedly. Very well said. Now, speaking of standing in the heat, and one of the things I admire about you, Glenn, is you're not just writing books, you're actually practicing what you preach. You recently made a decision to leave your quote-unquote safe job in favor of getting out here and chasing your passion. And I'm curious to know, because just so many of us have been programmed into looking for a job and thinking that's the only way we can make a living. What gave you the confidence to take on that risk? And you have a young child, there's a lot of reasons you could have said no, but you decided to get out here and make it happen. How did you approach that?
Well, another great question, and a great quote from Sandler Training, where I was a Sandler trainer for 2 years, just resigned from Sandler to pursue my dream full time, is that you'll never accomplish anything great by playing it safe. And that is massive. You will never accomplish anything great by playing it safe. And a corollary to that, and I'm thinking about the great baseball player Ricky Henderson right now, it is impossible to steal second base with your foot on first. You think about, a lot of us guys, maybe girls too, have played softball or baseball and attempted to steal second base or third base. It's impossible to steal a base with your foot stuck on the base. You've got to go for it. You've got to get out there and be willing to step into the unknown. That's where all great things happen. You've got to have faith, obviously, in yourself and in your Creator. But you've got to have a massive vision, a massive why. And you know what? I've been broke many times in my life. I'm 45. Actually, I've struggled a lot financially a majority of my adult life. And I've been evicted before, had my car repossessed, had all my services turned off. You have no idea how quickly a human being can shower until you have your gas turned off in November. It's staggering. But I never died. I've slept on people's couches before. You know what? I've never gone hungry. I've always gotten through it. But there is fear. There's fear of going broke, and it's deeper than being broke. The subconscious is hardwired to protect us. If we go broke, we're going to be homeless, and then we're going to live in the street, and then we're going to die. I think we ultimately fear death. And none of those things ever happen. One of my mentors, Wayne Dyer, the brilliant Dr. Wayne Dyer, says, heck, in this country, if you go totally broke, you can walk through Publix and eat grapes. We tend to fear things that never really happen. That's why I think it's absolutely critical. It's absolutely critical to visualize your outcome. Be crystal clear about what you want, because the universe doesn't judge. When you talk about, and it's biblical, what you put out comes back. Thoughts are things. You can control your thoughts. You can direct them. But what you put out to the universe will come. See, consciousness just reflects what we think. So if you put junk out there, junk's going to come back. Put greatness out there, greatness will come back. It is inevitable. But I think most people, through traditional thinking that you just mentioned, go to school, get a job, write it out. That's so dated. With the world being as flat as it is, and with the technology so accessible, with the internet, my God, I want my son Grant to have a business when he's 14 or 15. Who knows? He may never go to college. For me, college was a 4-year party. In today's world, it's not even really necessary unless you just specifically have something in mind.
Everything's on the internet now.
Everything's on the internet. It's all out there. It's just we're about to move into a whole new world. And I think I'm speaking a little bit in circles, but how do you deal with the fear? I mean, you've got to have a great vision, be crystal clear. And it's all in my book. It's a 3-step process. Manage your emotions, visualize your outcome, take massive action. Don't take a little action, take massive action.
Now, there was a quote in the book, and I'm not getting it exactly right here, but it was something to the effect that money comes and goes, but the way you acquire more of it is by simply bringing more value to the marketplace. Talk to us a little bit about that concept.
Well, I'm also a huge fan of the late, great Stephen Covey, and one of his 7 habits is being proactive. And I think that's absolutely essential to being successful in any area of your life is being proactive, not being reactive. You know, I interviewed Herman Cain, and he's a big proponent of being proactive and not being a victim of reactionary thinking. And I think our country's gotten soft. I think we've become overly politically correct. We've become literally fat and lazy. And I think it's because people are, generally speaking, sitting around waiting on some type of entitlement or handout instead of fostering that great spirit that George Washington and our founding fathers had, and is getting out there every day and freaking getting after it, being completely responsible, being proactive, not waiting on anything, taking charge, taking control of not only our minds but our physical bodies, and being responsible. So, success is a very broad word. And if you ask 100 people, they'll define it differently. But at the end of the day, we have got to take full responsibility, be proactive, and get after it every day.
Get after it every day. I like it. Question. Every successful person I've ever spoken with has, success habits that they follow every day, almost like a success ritual. What are some of your success habits?
Well, I'm a massive reader. I have a bathroom mirror full of affirmations and goals that I read every morning and every night. So I'm programming my subconscious. I'm programming my thinking on a daily basis. All of my affirmations are stated in the form of I am. Not I hope, not I wish, not I want, not I will someday. I am. Those are 2 of the most powerful words in the English language. As a matter of fact, I believe the 2 words I am are a 357 Magnum. With those 2 words, you can either kill your dreams or you can kill your fears. And I would strongly advise anybody who is listening to this to be very intentional, be very aware, and then be very intentional about the words that follow I am. I've got a great quote from the Tao Te Ching at the end of one of my affirmations. It says, I am great, I come from greatness, I attract greatness. But the first one is, I am great. And it might be difficult for somebody to say that the first time. That might be out of people's comfort zones to say, I am great. But those are 3 very powerful words. So affirmation, goals, read great books. I believe that the 2 things will separate us from where we are today and where we are in 5 years. The books that we read and the people with whom we associate. We've got to control associations, and sometimes being able to get from where we are right now to where we're going, maybe we might have to leave some relationships behind. And unfortunately, sometimes people closest to us will. Sometimes even in our family, some of our best friends will hold us back because they're in fear. They don't want us to succeed. And that's unfortunate. Sometimes you've got to be able to let go of people that might be holding us back, and always associate with people who think big, think great thoughts.
And that's a good point. I've always been real big on hanging out with big thinkers. And I think a lot of people avoid that because, when you hang out with someone that's maybe 2 or 3 levels above you, it's a little uncomfortable at first because the thinking isn't necessarily the same, the conversation isn't necessarily the same, but, over time, your thinking naturally adjusts and you wind up getting pulled up, 2 or 3 levels. But it's like they say, your income will follow the average of your 5 closest associates. So,
absolutely. And I'm since you said that, I'm on a mission right now to know and be mentored by a billionaire. I don't know any billionaires. I know of some billionaires, but I don't have any billionaires in my circle of influence that I talk to on a regular basis and am mentored by at some level. So what you said is so true. If you want to elevate your game, you got to hang out with people who are a couple of dimensions ahead of us so that we can play a bigger game.
I want to get into the book now. Stand in the Heat. Incredible book. Had the opportunity to read it. It's full of highlights now. But
thank you,
did
Will.
did a great job on it. What was your inspiration for writing the book?
Well, ironically, a little bit of fear. Going back to, I talked about the experience I had at O'Hare Airport in August of 2009 when my son was yet to be born. Well, fast forward to February 2nd of 2010. At the time, I was 42 years old. Grant was born. He was 3 months old. I had all that massive responsibility of being a new father and, being married for the first time. And at the time, I was in my car. It was a beautiful February morning, brisk, clear. I was in rush hour traffic on I-75 South in Atlanta. Had the windows up, and I do some of my best thinking in the solitude of my car. Some people, it's a shower or it's an airplane. Some of my great thoughts come to me in the car, and I was sitting there in that car that morning, 3-month-old son at home, new father, and my bank account was on absolute vapors. I mean, it was not comfortable. I was scared. I was anxious. I was in some fear. And sitting there in the solitude of my car, looking around, had the radio turned off. I heard a voice, a very clear voice. I don't know if it was my conscience or God or someone in between say, Glenn, stand in the heat. Don't freak out. And I thought that was a very pivotal moment in my life. As I looked around at other people stuck in traffic around me, I realized there are probably more people standing in heat financially right now than probably at any other point in their lifetime, and perhaps since the Great Depression. And certainly the economy's gotten a little better since February of 2010, but there are still, millions of people standing in the heat financially. And in that moment, I've been searching. My dream has always been to have my own brand as a speaker and an author, and I've written some things, created some courses, never written a book. But in that moment, I had a vision for this book, Stand in the Heat. I saw a book, I saw a platform, I saw a message, I saw a keynote address. And I went home that night and I got on GoDaddy. And I did a search for standintheheat.com, and I couldn't believe that it came up available. So I saw that as a really good sign. And the next thing I did was I had a book cover created. A good friend of mine is a brilliant graphic designer, and had him design a cover. So from day one, I started putting it out there. I started telling people I'm going to write this book. I didn't start a great business that became really successful like some of the people that I interviewed, but I knew that I could go out and tell other people's stories. And so I just began without knowing exactly what I was doing. I kind of stepped into the unknown. I got proactive. I took massive action, and I started interviewing people. As it turns out, HEAT has become an acronym for what I believe is critical for success as an entrepreneur. H stands for honor. I believe that as entrepreneurs, we are honoring our true calling, our true self. And this book for me, Will, is much more than a book. It is a calling. Entrepreneurs honor their true self. E is for enthusiasm. We have got to be massively enthusiastic all the time. Can't afford to be down, not one day, if you're an entrepreneur. A is for action. Got to take massive action. And T is for tenacity. If you talk to any successful entrepreneur, giving up, quitting is not even in their vocabulary. It's not in their DNA. So over the past couple of years, I had the privilege and the pleasure of interviewing 14 amazing entrepreneurs, 7 men, 7 women, about what they did. Some of these people are somewhat famous, some are not, but they all have great stories. They've stood in the heat emotionally and financially. They've come out with some of their limbs blown off, but they've never quit. They've been proactive. They've taken responsibility. They had a vision. They had a massive why, and they would never quit. And that's what this book is about. It's really a survival guide for entrepreneurship.
Now, a few things that some of the listeners may not have caught, but you'll get this if you get the book, is I like the concept that you actually sold yourself on the book. You actually had a mock book created with a cover, blank pages, but you would sit that, in front of yourself, and then you also took it to the bookstore and put it on the bestsellers shelf as well. Talk to us a little bit about that and the reason why you did that.
Well, the reason I did that, the book is in 3 sections. Section 1 is manage your emotions, specifically release your fear. If you get immobilized by fear, you're dead in the water. Step 2 is visualize your outcome. You call it the law of attraction. You call it creating a holographic vision, vision board, whatever you want to call the act of getting crystal clear about your vision. That's what we're talking about here. So I had the gumption, I had the intention, I had the idea that if I have a book cover created, I could sell myself the dream every day and reinforce what I was going to do, but I could also sell the dream to potential interviewees. I figured if I had a first-class book cover and was able to show it to somebody, they would think, hey, this guy's for real. If he's gone this far, he's going to make this happen. So had the book cover done, had it converted into business cards. I handed those out to everybody over the past 27 months and said, this book is coming, this book is coming, this book is coming, such that if I didn't finish this book, I was a liar and I had no credibility. So I set a trap for myself. I made public declarations and told people that this book was coming as I did the interviews. The next thing I did is, to your point, I have a good friend who owns a printing business, and he made up a mock book for me. Just a blank book. It was the exact size of the book that I have now, but empty pages. And I took that book and I put it on the bestseller shelf at Barnes & Noble, took a picture, and then put it on my vision board, such that I could focus on it every day, see it coming, see it happening. As a matter of fact, right now I'm enrolled in a course with Jack Canfield, the creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul. Jack Canfield has sold 500 million copies, which he's the #1 best-selling nonfiction author in history. And I've got on my mirror right now, I've taken it to the next level. Now that my book is finished, I've got on my bathroom mirror my book at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, so I see it every morning and every night. So just having an absolute crystal clear vision of where you're going is absolutely critical, because if you don't know where you're going, you won't get there.
I don't think too many people are going to be willing to argue with you on that. The book is made up of a series of interviews that you did with a number of highly successful entrepreneurs. Tell us, who are some of the people that you interviewed in the book?
Well, I appreciate you asking. I wanted to share that. Interviewed 7 amazing men and 7 amazing women, some with big names, some no names, but all great stories, all great spirits. Started out interviewing somebody who I think is one of the coolest entrepreneurs on the planet. That's George McCarrow, and he is the founder of Longhorn Steakhouse. I think we've all been there.
One of my favorite spots.
I'm sorry?
One of my favorite spots to go to.
Yeah, it's excellent. He's the founder of Longhorn Steakhouse. He sold that to Darden, which is one of the largest restaurant holding companies in the world. He's now Ted Turner's partner in Ted's Montana Grill. So Ted Turner, the great entrepreneur, is one of his best friends and mentors. I interviewed 2 great people in the real estate industry. Mo Anderson, who's the vice chairman of Keller Williams, an incredible woman who came from very meager means and is one of the great leaders in the real estate industry. Interviewed Dave Liniger, who is the founder of Remax International, an amazing, amazing entrepreneur who has just dealt with incredible challenges throughout his life, dealing with some massive challenges right now. Interviewed Herman Cain. I'm a huge Herman Cain fan. Interviewed a local Atlanta entrepreneur, Joyce Bone, an amazing woman with an amazing story. She, at 28 years old, was sick and tired of being sick and tired, meaning broke, and she decided that she was going to be a millionaire by the time she was 30 years old. At 28, she put a flag in the ground. She planted her flag and said, damn it, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30, and she did it. Incredible woman. Interviewed Bob Doyle, one of the stars and teacher from the movie The Secret. Learned a lot from Bob Doyle. But, I could go on and on about the great people I interviewed, and perhaps that's a great reason to pick up the book and read it.
I'll tell you right now, it's a good time for it. Definitely very appropriate for the environment. You personally, what did you learn from the interviews? Because I know, even the interviews that I do here, I kind of pick up something, learn something from everyone that I speak with. What did you personally get from interviewing each of these people?
Wow. I mean, the lessons are endless, but and it's a great question, because this book, this project for me was therapy. It was a laboratory. It was my own classroom. I learned so many great lessons from these entrepreneurs. I mean, everything from from being proactive to being able to assume risk. And Wendy Reed taught me a great lesson. She said, you've got to be willing to let the market tell you that your baby is ugly. I'd never heard that before. When you're an entrepreneur and you've got a product or service that isn't selling, you've got to be able to put your ego in your back pocket and let your customers or the marketplace tell you, you know what, Glenn, your baby's ugly. You need to fix it. I had never heard that before. So we've got to be somewhat emotionally detached from the outcome. You've got to have teams and systems in place. Otherwise, you're just self-employed. There's a lot to learn about becoming an entrepreneur. If you're looking for security, keep your day job. It is not for the faint of heart. There's nothing easy about it. But all the entrepreneurs that I interviewed said that it was far beyond well worth the effort and what they expected at the time they began.
Good stuff. Stand in the Heat, the new book from Glenn Carver. Go out and pick it up. It's a great book. And I'll share with you, Glenn, one of the things that I really appreciated about the book, man, was that your honesty. And you came across real authentic. You didn't come across this superhuman, know-it-all, got all the answers. I mean, you really acknowledged a lot of your insecurities in the book. And I know that takes a lot to do, especially when you're, writing a book as an expert on subject matter. So great job there. But before we let you go, just let everybody know how they can get in contact with you and how they can pick up the book.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, first and foremost, my cell phone is 404-291-0291, 404-291-0291. My email is Glenn, Glenn, 2 N's, Glenn at standintheheat.com. And my book can be purchased at standintheheat.com, standintheheat.com, or Amazon. I prefer standintheheat.com because I get to see people hit my PayPal account, and that's a little bit of a rush. But I appreciate what you said about me being, I did my best to be vulnerable and transparent in this book. I want people to see it like it is. I want the reader to connect with me. I wanted the readers to connect with me and the people I interviewed to know that we are real. Entrepreneurs are real. They're full of fear. They're full of insecurities, but that's what courage is all about. And one of the gentlemen I interviewed, Scott Goodnight, is all about breaking through fear and establishing great levels of courage. Courage is moving forward in spite of your fear. So, in spite of me, I think the book came out really good.
And Glenn, I know you have another meeting coming up here shortly, but just real quick, is there anything that I didn't ask you that maybe you'd like to put out there, or anything that you wanted to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
I would say, and I appreciate the question, if there's anything that you left out, I think this has been an excellent interview. I really appreciate your time. I would just say that, most likely anybody who's going to hear this interview has a dream, they have a passion, but they've got their left foot in some type of job that's giving them some security, that's paying the mortgage and paying the bills. But their right foot, they want to make a move towards second base. They want to, they want to steal second base in the direction of their dream. And I would say do whatever you have to do to pursue your passion to make that a reality. Because I believe someday we're all going to die. We're going to be on our deathbed. And it's not the things that we do that we regret. It's the things that we don't do. You have your passion for a reason. Chase it. Make it happen.
Good stuff. And just one more time, how can we get in contact with you to get the book and all that good stuff?
Yeah, Glenn at standintheheat.com. Or you can go to my website, standintheheat.com, and purchase the book. And all support is massively appreciated.
You heard him. Go ahead and pick up the book. It's a great book, everybody. You won't be disappointed. Glenn, I appreciate you coming on the show. I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. Until then, continue to do big things.
Hey, I appreciate you, Will. I've really enjoyed myself here today, and I look forward to seeing you on campus and helping each other do great things.
Sounds like a plan. Everybody, I appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully you learned something new or remember something you forgot. Either way, my job is done for the day. Until the next time we talk, peace.